What is up, everyone? We are back. Another Miami Dolphins 2025 NFL Draft stream. Just kind of just chill, have, nice discussion, answer some questions. Gonna go over some of the players I've watched recently. I got a decent like chunk here, like at least like 8 to 10 players that I just want to talk about specifically, and then also just like general Dolphins draft discussion because since like post free agency, I think some of the things have changed with who the Dolphins could potentially target, and all the different scenarios that could play out. Players that I definitely would take, players I wouldn't take, and then like there's multiple ways it could roll with which positions they target. So we'll let people get in here. Make sure I am good. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. I am live. Okay. Never know. Sometimes this stuff gets messed up. What's up, Terry? How you doing? Going pretty good. I haven't streamed in a bit. I haven't been streaming as much, but I've been making field breakdowns every day. Just ready for the draft to get here, honestly. I love the draft. It's like literally my favorite time of the year. So we're about a month out. When is the draft? Is it? I think it literally might be like a month, right? Let me look it up. What's up, Brian? What's up, Scotty? Nick, I want Nick. What Nick you talking about? What's up, Cap for Live? The Miami Dolphins delegation has decided to take Will Johnson, corner from Michigan at 13. We made our collective decision last week during Friday Night SmackDown. They've decided. It does seem like Dolphins fans are definitely on the Will Johnson train as of late, and corner's a huge need. I would be all down for Will Johnson. I don't even know if he's going to be there. It will be interesting because I did see that he was going to do a private workout sometime in April. So it'll be interesting to see how he tests because I know people want to see how he tests because he's had some injuries that he's kind of been working through this offseason. Yeah, it's about a month out. The safety. Yeah, I'm actually personally not super high on Nick Emenwari compared to like most people. I think he's a day 2 guy, and I know people want him in round 1. So for me, that's a bit rich. Like I've talked about it in detail, his skill set. I just have a few problems with his game that I just don't think it justifies taking him at 13. I do think he's a good fit for Miami, but I think I think he's pretty stiff, which kind of hurts him from time to time, lack of fluidity. And for a guy of his size, like a guy that's going to play as like an overhang defender a lot of the time, playing as like a, down the box overhang, I really wish he played with more physicality at his size. Like he doesn't really love to get involved versus the run. I wouldn't say he's soft or anything, but he isn't a super like downhill, love to hit you type of safety. Indiana, I'm in Tennessee. I see Jade Barron as McDuffie type. I don't dislike that, and I love McDuffie. If you go back, I think McDuffie, I started making videos like years ago, but I only like made a few, and then I stopped for a while, and then I started posting again. Trent McDuffie was one of the first film breakdowns I ever made when he was in Washington. I think it was like one of my first 3 videos ever. So I'm a huge Trent McDuffie fan, huge Jade Barron fan. Like if you can't tell, like those are my favorite types of players. Maybe a little undersized corner, but they have that dog in them. They're athletic and they have super high football intelligence. So yeah, I don't dislike that comparison. And they can both play inside, outside type of thing. I keep forgetting what I'm trying to look up. Draft dates. I think is it like the 24th or something? Yeah, Thursday, April 24th. Today's the 23rd, March. So yeah, we're literally just about a month out until the draft. Pretty sick. It's in Green Bay this year. I don't even think I knew that. Let me see. In retrospect, would you have drafted Graham Barton last year? Over Chop. Now that I know, I don't think so. I think Chop just plays a more valuable position, and then with how Edge turned out, with like pretty much no one coming back from injuries, I do think taking Chop was the right move. So you got to give credit to the Dolphins with that one. Even though I do think Graham Barton also would have been a good move, but it would have just kind of changed probably around some of your priorities. But yeah, I want to trade down. Trading down would be great, but as I say, sometimes it takes two to tango. I would love to either get Banks or trade down to get an extra pick. If we trade down, I would take Banks. At 13, I wouldn't be mad if he was a pick, but he would not be one of my top options. I remember asking who was going. Yeah, Nick Emanwari, Shamar Stewart. I think I mentioned both of them when people were asking about RAS, just because they have the size and you knew they were going to test like athletically well. But neither of them did agility drills, which I think makes sense because I don't think agility was either of their strengths on tape. Like I don't think they would test horribly, but it would have definitely ruined their perfect grades. Will Johnson or Jade at 13? I'll say this. I think it's closer than people think, but I have both graded very closely. I have Johnson in my top 10 and I have Jade at like 11. So I do lean Will Johnson, but if they take Barron, like my grades aren't that, like my rankings of them aren't that far off in this class. But I am probably higher on Barron than most people. But also, I think the thing with Will is he's a little more, there is the injury factor because he has some injuries to work through that he kind of missed some time last season. I think they were like hamstring injuries, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Let's see. Rondé Orange Gadsden Jr. He's a potential late round option. He's more of a big slot receiver than a tight end, though. I want Watts at 48, which means he'll go 45 to 47. Yeah, Watts is one that I think there's a chance he's there at 48. Like it's very tough to predict the second round guys because they're like this 20 to 60 like talent of prospects is very even. So I do think like you could see some surprises there, like maybe people you're not expecting to be on the board. But yeah, Watts, I do think there's a decent chance. Like he's probably won't be there at 48, but if he is there, definitely probably would be one of the more top priorities on my board. And safety's still a need. Like we're gonna go by third position. Positions the Dolphins definitely need to address. In positions that like they probably should address, and then the ones they're like they can get away with not addressing. I would say every position they could address pretty much, but there's some positions they don't necessarily need to in the draft. But they could. Honestly, I think the best course of action is to trade down to like 20 or 23 and take Siobhan Ravel. I wouldn't hate it. Especially, it depends what you would get, though. I think Ravel is a top 10 prospect, but he is coming off the ACL, so that's like the big issue. So it depends how he would... that's more of a doctor's thing, like, you know, when they like test him, like physical and stuff. Grant, would you take Grant at 13? I have seen Kenneth Grant's name come a lot up now recently for the Dolphins at 13 between fans and stuff. He would be a guy that if they took, I would say similarly to Kelvin Banks, is like, I would be okay with it. I wouldn't hate it. I like the player. I just think I have Kenneth Grant ranked around, like he's going to be ranked in like that 20-ish range for me. So I think it's a little bit of a reach. And the D-line class is just so good. I do think he's a really good fit, really good athlete for his size. Like he's going to be an instant impact as like a run defender. I still think that, and there's some upside like with his movement skills as a pass rusher. I do think there's things he needs to work on, but he has the traits. He moves super well for his size, big man. And he has like the suddenness to like gap exchange, you know, works twists and stunts. I want to talk about some D linemen that are like have some versatility, but can also work twists and stunts. Like that's a big part of the Dolphins D line. So if you see guys that like have the quickness to either crash or loop, and they have the feel for that, those are guys I think the Dolphins will be interested in at that position. Yeah. Do you like Jalen Walker at 13? I do like Jalen Walker. He would be an interesting pick for Miami because I actually think Walker has some of the more boom or bust potential in this class because of his skill set. I think it really depends on how a team uses him. Like if they stick him strictly as an off ball, I don't think he's worth the pick at 13. But you have to be able to like allow him to play downhill, allow him to get after the passer a lot because he looks way more disruptive as a pass rusher. But I don't know if he's a full-time edge either because of his size. So it'll be interesting to see how he's used. And like if you look at the Dolphins right now, they've added a lot of linebackers, and edge is probably one of their stronger positions right now. I don't think edge is one of those positions though where you should never count it out. Even if you're super strong at it, you should always be trying to add edge. Like the premium positions like that, like edge, tackle, receiver, corner. Even if you're strong at those positions, you could still add at them always because there's a lot of turnover in the NFL. So Walker would be interesting, but like you did add a lot of linebackers in free agency. You added KJ Britt, a run defender, Willie Gay, an interesting player that has like a differing skill set that can do some stuff with coverage and blitzing and play more overhang. You brought Tyrell Dodson back. So linebacker is one of those things where like you could upgrade, but there's probably bigger, needs to fill. And then edge, you kind of have, some of your better players out on defense. So I don't know if it would be worth it, but I do like Jalen Walker. I feel like DB. I think DB does have a high chance of being the pick, especially corner. I think corner more so than safety because corner is just a more premium position. Yeah, D tackle or corner, I agree. That's probably the highest chance of right now. I think it has a higher chance than O-line and then higher chance than a few other positions as well. Thought Johnson he might have had a toe injury. Toe, Achilles, same thing. I don't think we'll draft Warren either. I do love Warren though. How far realistic would Jahad Campbell fall now? What happened with Jahad Campbell, Scotty? I didn't see everything about him. But I do love Jahad Campbell. But I don't know. I don't think I saw what his injury thing was. Too many good D tackles to take one at 13, in my opinion. Yeah, I probably agree. I think unless Mason Graham falls to you, I'm probably going to prefer another position over D tackle at 13. Would you call the Giants an offer 13 and Tyreek for Dexter Lawrence? No. I love Dexter Lawrence, a great player, but I wouldn't do that. He had surgery on his torn labrum? Damn. Ooh. And did they say like a timeline? I don't think I saw that. Let me write that down actually, just so I have that in my notes on Jahad. How did I miss that? That's interesting. I don't know. I guess it depends on the timeline, and sometimes it's always tough with injury guys because you don't get to you don't know what the information the doctors have. But if he falls far enough, I think you have to consider it. He's too good of a player. And he maybe wouldn't make an instant impact for Miami, but like a long-term impact. And do you really think the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl next year? Probably not. But also you got to think about it from the front office perspective. They are we might be just drafting this player for the next GM or coach. So I don't know. Typing that down. Okay, there we go. 6 to 9 months minimum recovery. Yeah, so he's probably going to miss the season. Ooh, yeah, I probably wouldn't take him in the first 2 rounds then. Past that, I don't think he falls past that, but if he does, you have a lot of picks in the mid round. Might as well throw your third at it, right? What's your opinion on Shadur Sanders? I don't love the quarterback class. I guess we could start talking about by position. The quarterback class, I really think the only one I would take in round 1 is Cam Ward. I do think Sanders and possibly Dart will go in round 1 just because that's the nature of the position. But I don't love this class at quarterback. I think the Dolphins specifically, if you look at the team, don't need to take quarterback. They could, but it might just be a waste of a pick this year. I might just wait till next year to take quarterback if that's where you really have to go, But if they do need to take a quarterback on day 3, I think my favorite target is still Kyle McCord from Syracuse. Good scheme fit, smart player, and he's just one of the guys I think in this class that I can see just being a solid career backup. And I don't mind, drafting a guy like that. There's some other interesting ones like Tyler Shuck. He's older and has had some injuries, but he definitely has some of the most intriguing film in this class. With his ability, he has size, he has some athleticism, his arm angles, his release, arm talent, all there. So how would you compare Cam Ward to last year's QB class? I would put Ward would probably be he would be behind the top 3. And then he'd probably be in it just depends. I think then after that, he'd be in that range of where the other guys went after that. Yeah, I agree, Scotty. I don't think you need to take a quarterback. So that's a position I don't think you need to take in this class. And then depending how next year plays out, then 2026, you could potentially take a quarterback, whether it's a starter, depending on what happens with this regime, or a backup. And it should be a better class. Hopefully, a lot can change in a year, but it should be a better class. And then quarterback, I'm totally fine just not taking one in the draft. It's a weak class, and you signed Zach Wilson to be your backup, and he's also kind of he's almost like drafting a quarterback because you're taking a guy that's still young and has some upside there. And that's kind of what you would be doing drafting one in this class anyways. Next position, running back. Definitely don't need to take one early. You do need more people. I think you need another body in the room. So I think running back's one of those positions where you get to day 3, you throw a late round pick on a running back because running backs fall all the time and you could still get like some potential value there. But like you definitely don't need to take a running back early. If they did, I wouldn't take one until like round 4, if that's like mid rounds. And it would be like Damian Martinez or something. Have someone like good value there fell. But like I think Achane, Jalen Wright, Alexander Madison, if he's your third, that's fine. I don't love Madison, but as a third, he's fine. You can definitely get away with them. And then, another sort of late round option, and those can be like your 4 guys. So those are 2 positions, I think, quarterback, running back, receiver. A lot of your skill positions, like receiver, you don't need to take receiver. You can. I think receiver is a position you should always be trying to take in the draft, because if you look in free agency, receiver is very, very rarely good value in free agency. Dolphins kind of lucked out with Nick Westbrook-Akine. They got good value in free agency at receiver. That rarely happens. They usually get waiver paid, and there's a lot of like stats to back it up. Like a lot of most value for receivers. Like it's like the most value position to draft compared to free agency. So I would look at potential receiver in the draft, but it's also just one of those positions you don't have to take. You could take it because you probably only have Tyreek for one more year. You could still even potentially trade Tyreek. You still got Waddle and Nick Westbrook-Akine. I like Malik Washington. But, adding a day 3 receiver, or maybe you're in somehow day 2 and receivers easily best player available and they take it, that would be fine. But I think receiver is one of the positions you don't have to force it. Same with quarterback, running back, receiver, you don't have to force. But yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying. I would take, okay, got to mention Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, Gabriel's fine as a late round option, but like even later than McCord, I wouldn't take Gabriel until like towards the end of the draft. Nussmeier, Drew Aller, yeah, we'll see how they develop this offseason. They definitely have some intriguing upside. Jaden Blue, yeah. Blue would fit Miami really well. I think they might look for more of a bigger back, so we'll see. But yeah. So quarterback, running back, receiver, positions that I don't think they have to take in the draft. But with the BPA philosophy, you could always end up taking one of them, just depending how the board falls. Tight end. I definitely think the Dolphins have to come out of this draft with a tight end, especially a wide tight end. I think this class is very good. One of the best classes you'll see at tight end. There's many different types. I don't think they're going to take one early, but like in that range, when the Dolphins are like in their round 3 pick is like 98. And then they have their last pick. Then they have a pick at like 155. From 98 to like 155, they have like 5 picks there. I think one of those picks should be used on a tight end. Just because the Dolphins need some help there. I like, Jonnu Smith. He's a good F tight end. He'll be a good receiver for you. Pharaoh Brown, I think, will do some decent blocking. But I think you should be trying to find your wide tight end in the future that he'll make an impact in year 1, but also will be like your guy potentially down the line. So I would be targeting tight end in this class. I don't think they're going to take one early, even though I love Tyler Warren. I don't think they're going to take Loveland. I think Arroyo will be gone by the time they want to take a tight end. And then we'll see where other guys end up falling, like Gunnar Helm. I think they could like Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Jackson Hawes, I love, who might be a little bit of a later option. I did recently watch the Notre Dame tight end Mitchell Evans. Don't love him, but if he is a late round option, there's something to work. He has the huge frame. He is pretty QB friendly, intermediate target. He has a good field versus zone. Not the greatest athlete, but has good hands, reliable hands, can make some fun catches. Inconsistent blocking, but he has the frame at least to develop as a blocker. So we'll see. Jalen Conyer, same thing from Texas Tech, another late round developmental option. Recently, actually, I don't know if he's a fit for Miami because I think he's more of an F tight end, but I did watch Benjamin Urasek, he played at Georgia last year, but before he played at Stanford. I knew about him from Stanford, but he had like an off year. He had some injuries, and then he played with Georgia, and they didn't use him the same way. But he is a seam threat field stretcher. He's a guy that I think is one of the more underrated prospects in this class that I haven't heard anyone really talk about. And I think he is someone that will be a good, like a solid receiving tight end in the NFL. Just a name that I wanted to throw out there for whatever team he ends up on. Yep, love Jackson Haas. Yeah. Say Pharaoh Brown is a Dolphins got relatively younger in free agency even with a lot of their 1-year deals. But Pharaoh Brown is like he's 30 and it's a 1-year deal. Like it definitely doesn't prevent you from drafting a tight end. Same with Jonnu. Jonnu only has 1 year left on his deal. You definitely need a tight end. They could even draft an F tight end to replace Jonnu in the future if that's at some point in the draft too. What do you think of God? Yeah. Team Matt. I was gonna talk about Willie Lampkin. He's one of the guys I have highlighted to talk about. So I hadn't watched a ton. I knew of Willie Lampkin, obviously, but literally yesterday, I plan on making a film breakdown soon. So keep an eye out for that. Let me see, where's my Willie Lampkin notes? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So I watched Willie Lampkin like in full. Like I watched like 3 games of him. He's a guy that like he's probably gonna fall because he's super small. Because like he's like literally like 5'11", 270 type small, so like unheard of level of smallness for the O-line. But to me, there is always exceptions to the rules. And he's a guy that like if he's there late day 3, I 100% take a flyer because even if he doesn't work out interior O-line, which I think they'll probably try to play him at center. One, he's an insane athlete. The guy moves so well for his size. His feet, he's aggressive. He's so tough for his size, which I think helps. Like he plays bigger than his size, which is a big thing. He would probably be seen more as a center in Miami, but I would love to take a chance. And if he doesn't work out at interior O-line, I think he has the size and athleticism to one, play as like your 6 O-lineman. So you line him basically at tight end. You know, when teams bring in 6 O-linemen to block all the time, you could use him for that. And then also, I think there's like potential, like I've seen people start putting like D linemen at fullback that are bigger than him. And I think he could play fullback. Like I've seen him dig out D linemen and edges and used on pulls. Like I think his skill set can translate to that. If he doesn't work out at O-line, like I think there's a clear backup plan for him. And his film is really good. Really fun player to watch. But yeah, basically I said very small, but has some great movement skills and plays with great toughness, has really good film. Size might limit him at the next level. But he's a great puller, good combo guy, really understands how to use his leverage, explosive. Can sometimes play a little over the top. Usually when he loses his blocks, he kind of, because he has limited length, he fires out and gets into bodies and like people beat him with like a swim move. That's usually where he ends up losing. Outlier, but there's always exceptions. Could play 6 O-line and fullback. Can be pushed a little bit in pass pro, but he gets very aggressive with his sets. So yeah, I think fitting into like that Shanahan type of system is very helpful for him. But his tape is fantastic. So he's like one of those guys that like, if he falls because of his size, I 100% take a flyer on him, especially a late round pick. You're not going to find people with better film than him. And even if it doesn't work out, most of those guys that you take at that spot in the draft don't work out anyways. So I definitely would be down to take a flyer. Because his film is fantastic. He's just like unbelievably small. Tight end from Iowa. Yeah, Luke Leachy. Injury history. I think he's a really good route runner. I think he's one of the better route running tight ends in the class. If he was a better blocker, I'd be all over it. I just don't think he's a great blocker and has some struggles with play strength. But like he has a really good understanding of like his tempo and pace in route running. So I could see him being a pretty good receiving threat in the league. Brown is the definition of journeyman. All right, we are his 8th team. I truly don't expect anything. Yeah, I can understand why people would see that, but like why tight end blocking was so atrocious last year. His film last year, even though he didn't play that good, was still better than what you had last season. So even though I don't have high expectations for him, I still expect like better work from him as just a true inline blocker than what you got out of Durham Smythe and Julian Hill last year. So there's at least that. But yeah, I will make a Willie Lampkin film breakdown pretty soon. Hot take, tight end production won't increase much even if we draft Warren. See, yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that, and like they use that again, like whenever I say we should take Tyler Warren, they'd be like, well, where do the targets and the catches go to? Who do they get taken away from? And to me, like, I feel like they're kind of missing the point that I'm making when I'm saying to take Kyler Warren. Because to me, I don't really care what he produces in year one. Like, I don't care what his numbers are. I just know the value he would bring as an interior guy. And also, it would make the offense less predictable if he's on the field than when Jonnu's on the field, because you could still do a lot of your receiving things and also still run. And I just don't think people realized how bad run blocking was last year for the wide tight ends. And Tyler Warren could he's not even like a super great blocker as of yet, but he has the frame and he has the want to, and like he shows the high end reps that even if he didn't have the greatest numbers per se, like putting up a ton of yards, like I wouldn't care. Like I don't really care what his stats are in year one for Miami, because I do think he'll still be semi productive, but his productive would show, like his impact would show a lot more on the film than it went on his stats. What do you think about? I haven't watched Eli Cox. Well, let's see. Okay, yeah. So that's the sort of skill positions on offense. I think tight end is the one out of those guys that sort of would be the biggest help. You don't necessarily have to. Okay, hold on. Well, okay, my nephew's screaming. Okay. My God, sorry about that. But let's see. Yeah, so O-line, obviously. I think out of the whole offense, O-line is still like your biggest need left. Specifically, like an upgrade at one of the guard spots. I don't see them going guard in round one. I just don't think that's what Miami's going to do. But I do think there's still a chance they go guard somewhere on day 2, whether it's round 2, round 3, depending how the board falls. Because yeah, that's my nephew. He's out of control. Willie Lampkin looks like Zabel when he blocks. Yeah, love Gray Zabel as well. He's another great option. So yeah, I think O-line definitely position Dolphins are going to target at some point. Like I don't know how. Like they could be a later option, but they're going to take O-line at some point in this draft, before their 7th round pick, which they have 3 of. Will Gamble they would play at guard if you fall. Yeah, Will Campbell would play guard for Miami, especially early on in his career. But yeah, definitely would take O-line. Any O-lineman. I think, tackle as well. I still think tackle is a valuable position. It could take people that can play both spots. I haven't talked about Chase Lunt. If you guys have watched him, he's from UConn. He's like, he'll probably go somewhere in the middle rounds, like a 3rd, 4th round type player. But he is, if they want to take a swing tackle potential in the draft, him, Charles Grant, great fits, great athletes, really good movers, really good lateral. Chase Lunt's lateral ability and his ability to reach block is so impressive. I feel like the Dolphins will really like Chase Lunt. So I wanted to throw his name out there. Same with Caleb Rogers from Texas Tech. He has some really impressive movement skills on, and I wonder if he could even play guard at the next level. I think Lunt and Grant are more tackles, but I think Rogers could potentially play guard. But yeah, some fun O-lineman there. Anthony Belton's another name I wanted to mention. He's NC State. He played pretty much left tackle only at NC State. He didn't play guard, but I actually think he'll be a better guard at the next level. Really good size. He just has some inconsistencies that are kind of exposed at tackle. But he's really big, like a really big guy, really long arms, and he moves well for his size. Aggressive player, like he has some very dominant reps where he like absolutely bullies defenders. That's why I think he'd be a better fit at guard. He actually looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl as well, especially on those first 2 practices. So I would love to take it if there was if you're there in the middle rounds and Anthony Belton's on the board, I would think the Miami Dolphins could potentially be a fan of him. And he's someone they could eventually develop into a player. Yeah, Charles Grant and Chase Lunt are like 2 of the best scheme fits for like a tackle in this for the Dolphins. Oh my God. Let's see. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. D-line, obviously we need some bodies. Right now we have 4 bodies in the D-lineman room. 2 of them are guys who will actually be here for sure, with Zach Sealer and Benito Jones. The other 2, we don't know yet. We'll see. Benito Jones kind of takes care of that nose tackle / one tech type of player. You could add another one, but you don't really need to now. Usually, some teams don't carry more than one just because you don't necessarily, a lot of those guys only really playing base, and base isn't played as much anymore. And, he can still play some other reps at other spots if needed. I think you're looking at a position like, you're looking at guys that can play like 3 to 5 tech and then also can play some edge. Like what Calais, you're looking for Calais replacements. Even if Calais Campbell comes back, you're looking for guys that can play a Calais Campbell type of role. And you're looking for guys that are depth also can, fit some stuff. So there's some people in here, some that are edges that can play interior, and some that are interior guys that can play edges. There's a lot of options in this class. I think they're going to target a couple of these guys. Like, I think this is the one position of like, do I think they're going to double up at a spot? Yeah, it's probably interior D-line, and it's D-line that can play a little bit of edge. So someone I watched recently actually was Vernon, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Broden. He's from Texas. He's the other Texas D lineman. Very intriguing skill set. I think he's like 6'4", like low 300, something like that. And he's got like athleticism. He can play some outside stuff too. Very disruptive, explosive. Like he has the quickness to cross face on twists and stunts, which I think Miami will really like. Very disruptive. And I think there's even more upside because sometimes he doesn't always rush exactly with a plan. He has good play strength. I think, sometimes versus the run, he can play with too high a pad level and can struggle versus double teams. But there's definitely some intriguing upside there in the middle rounds for him. I made a video on CJ West recently, which is, he's a guy that can play like 1 tech, but also 3 tech. Very powerful, very quick, good run defender. Love his, ability. I could also see the Dolphins being interested in like Shamar Turner. He also kind of fits that mold of what Vernon was, where, he can play inside, outside. He's kind of a high upside guy. Same with guys like JJ Pegues, Aeneas Peebles. We've talked about them enough. Riley Mills from Notre Dame. I believe he's coming off the ACL injury, but he is someone that I could be seeing a fit. It's like he plays like a 3 to 5 tech, moves well laterally. He also does some of the stuff. He does a lot of stunt work for Notre Dame, and that's where like a lot of his production came from. So I could see them being interested in him. Some edges that can do some interior stuff are players like Jordan Birch from Oregon. He's a very long sort of tweener type player. Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. I really like his fit, and he can do some of that like 5 tech stuff for you if you needed. Savion Jones from LSU, kind of same thing. Guys that are like, long, big, but also going to be quicker than most pure interior players because of, their experience at edge. That can create some, disruption up the middle on those obvious passing situation. And there's a lot of players like that in the class. And I think the Dolphins will target those guys. Should have brought back Hand. Yeah, Deshaun Hand's a solid player, but he wasn't the greatest fit for what Miami liked to do with Weaver. I love Donovan Jackson. I think the problem with Jackson is he's probably gone between pick 13 to 48. And he has a trade down option. It's just trading down feels unlikely just because it never happens. I would love it though. I do love Donovan Jackson. Thoughts on TJ Sanders? Sanders is another one. He's more of a 3 tech though. Like 3 tech can create some disruption. I could see the Dolphins liking TJ Sanders as well. He seems like someone they would like as a disruptive player. Good athleticism, movement skills. Has some solid play strength in 1-on-1s. Maybe struggles for some double teams. But he's got high end motor, disruptive. Yeah. So I like Sanders, especially in like round 3. I don't know if he'll be there, but we'll see. Does Weaver want a true 0 tech in a scheme? I don't think he minds having it, but I don't think it's like a necessity. Will Johnson / Stark / Campbell available? Who do you take? Tyleek is good as well. Yeah, I was more so talking about some of the later, because I think there's a top like Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Tyleek Williams, Walter Nolan too, even though there's some stuff with problems with his game, and then Alfred Collins. Those are like guys that I see like pretty similarly after Graham. The other guys like maybe Darius Alexander But yeah, Tyleik Williams is very good too, especially if you want a guy that can stop the run on the interior. But you said Will Johnson, Stark / Campbell available. Who do you take? That is tough. It would be between Johnson and Campbell. Because I think I would take them both over Starks, even though Starks I really like as well. I think Johnson is the one that would play like the premium position. And right now I think corner and guard are kind of equal needs because like you definitely need a starter at both spots. It would really, and I have them both graded pretty equally, Johnson and Campbell. Let me actually check. Since they're pretty even, I'm going to probably say Will Johnson. Just because I think I could potentially get a guard that's closer to him in the second than I would get a corner closer to him, closer to Will Johnson. But it is tough. Plus, I think Campbell's a decent scheme fit. I just don't think he's like a glove type fit scheme fit. But it is tough. Both good players. Is safety a concern for you? Yeah, about to get to that. So, so we just talked about D lineman and edge. I think the Dolphins will take some D lineman for sure. And if they take edge, they could take any type of edge. But I think if they do take an edge, it will be a guy that has some positional versatility. Linebacker, not the deepest linebacker class. I think with all the guys they added at linebacker, they added a lot of guys with differing skill sets that can kind of fill in that role. And I feel like I've talked about it. If there was one position I think the Dolphins were going to probably end up kind of ignoring in the draft, it would have been linebacker. I even said that before free agency. And it kind of feels like that's the direction they're going because it's not a strong class. So unless you take one of those guys early, that's pretty good. You're probably not getting an impact player. So I think linebacker is probably one you take on day 3 to potentially fight in that room. There's some options there I like Jeffrey Bassa, Jack Kaiser, Smell Munden Jr., some of the UCLA guys. Also Oladejo, who's like more of an edge linebacker. Ted Buchanan from Cal is interesting too. But yeah, after like the top guys. But that's kind of, linebackers. I feel like linebackers the one position on defense that I could see them edge and linebacker. Like edge you can always add because it's a position, but it's probably your biggest strength right now on defense. And then linebacker is like, you can definitely add talent, but just due to the class, I think they probably go after other positions first. Then we get to secondary. We haven't really added anything at corner other than Artie Burns. And Artie Burns is a guy that might not even make the team. He could be like a late depth guy. That's all I really see for him. And I don't like the rest of the free agent class at corner. I would go corner. Hopefully you can get a corner in the first 2 rounds. Sometimes the board doesn't fall that way and you don't want to reach for a corner and you end up just going at other positions. But I would love to take a corner early. Just with looking at free agency, looking at how the draft is right now. There's options at multiple different spots. Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron early on. Potentially, Siobhan Revelle. Then, maybe day 2, you could see Benjamin Morrison fall there from Notre Dame because he's had that shoulder injury. I think Trey Amos is a good scheme fit that they could really like out of Ole Miss. Those are some early options. Obviously, Travis Hunter will be gone. Then there's some other guys that I really like as well. I could go a little bit later. You could double up on corner too. They don't necessarily need to. Safety is a weird one because I do think they need to take a safety. They added safety in free agency, but I really only see Melifonwu as the potential starter out of the guys they added. I think Ashton Davis is more of a depth guy. I think McMorris has upside, but he's going to be more of a depth guy. Same with Elijah Campbell, special teams depth guy. So I do think they should try to add a starter at safety, but it might be just one of those positions where if the draft doesn't fall right, they might not add a safety early. And they're just going to, maybe draft one in the middle rounds and, let someone fight out for that other spot. Because Melifonwu kind of fits that like overhang role, plays in the slot, plays like as a big slot, but you kind of need someone who can play deep middle of the field stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at safety because there's some potential options early, like round 1, Malachi Starks. That's the only safety I would consider in round 1. I know Nick Emanwari will get some hype from Dolphins fans, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was the pick because he's a good scheme fit, and teams do bet on upside and athleticism all the time. And he does have good film. Like, he's not a bad player. There's just some problems I have with him that I have him ranked a little bit lower, so I think 13's a reach. Then on day 2, Xavier Watts, great option. Andrew Makuba from Texas, another great option. I love Makuba. If Makuba came to the Dolphins, he'd start right away. Super instinctive. He's my kind of player at safety as well. Like maybe a little bit undersized, but plays super tough, quick twitch, super intelligent, ball skills, run support. Like he just makes plays. He's, those are the types of guys you want on your team, especially at safety. Like I just need people who are smart in the right spot and can make some plays, and are willing to come down and help, because safeties are the position that they're not involved in every play. But when you can find guys that are trying to get involved with every play while also not like playing vastly out of position, those are the guys you want. And those are sort of like day 2 options. Same thing with like Kevin Winston Jr. if they wanted to go in that direction. Who else we got? Then you got some more like mid-round options like Jonas Sanker, who I like as a fit, who actually would, with the safety room you have right now, would actually have a chance to start. Sebastian Castro, Hunter Wohler is interesting from Wisconsin. I actually think he would be fun. Lathan Ransom from Ohio State. If you want a physical downhill run defender at safety, that guy is going to run the alley, and he's a pretty smart player too. He's not like a flashy player in coverage. Like you don't want him playing in like man-to-man, but he can play in like quarters and be in the correct spot. Malachi Moore is another option, like the middle rounds. Some later options like Billy Bowman if you want like a safety / nickel, kind of an Andrew Makuba type, but probably a little bit later option out of Oklahoma. Craig Woodson from Cal. Yes, Kevin Winston's also coming off injury, so I don't know where he's going to go either. Yeah, Craig Woodson I like. Oh, okay. Let's see. I love Savanea at 48, but he might be gone. How do you even his fit? I like Savanea. As he's not like a perfect fit, but as a guard in Miami, like he's definitely would be fine. And at 48, I think there's like Savanea is like pretty 50 and 50 in my mind if he'll be there at 48 or not. Let's see. Ratledge, Savanaya, both could be there. I feel we are deeper at safety than we are, even so I feel we need one safety and 2 corners. Yeah. Definitely should add a couple DBs, and maybe add some DBs with versatility that could play both, because some of these guys have that type of versatility. Like that's why I love the idea of Jody Barron, because I think he can play outside corner. I think he can play nickel, and I also think like there's potential for him like playing a little bit of safety if it was needed. Grant at 13, Watts at 48. Wouldn't surprise me if that's how it went. Like I wouldn't be that mad if it was that. It wouldn't be like ideal, mainly because of Grant at 13, but you would get 2 guys who I think would make instant impacts in different ways. What do you think of Jalen Reed, Penn State? I actually need to watch. Where do I have notes on Jalen Reed? Actually, I watched Jalen Reed a long time ago when I was like actually early in the cycle, and I have some clips on him, but I need to watch Jalen Reed again, I think, because I think I only saw early season games, and I don't remember like having strong feelings about him in either direction. So I'm going to watch Jalen Reed again, because sometimes, you watch so many players, they kind of start to get mixed up in your head. Too high at 48. Too high at 48. Did you see him at the Senior Bowl? I don't know who you're talking about, Tyson. Let's see. Pick 48, TJ Sanders, Swessinger, Makuba, Izariko available. Who you taking? TJ Sanders, Swessinger, Makuba, Izariko available. Who you taking? Ooh, okay. For me, I'm probably taking Makuba. I'm super high on Makuba. I actually like all the guys you named. I like TJ Sanders, but not at 48. I like Swessinger at 48, but I think I would have Makuba slightly ranked higher, and I think safety is a bigger need. And then who'd you say? Ezerico. Ezerico is really good too, and he would be a guy I would be. I think Ezerico will be gone. Actually, I think he's going to go in the first round. But he's not the type of edge defender I'm looking for Miami right now, because that's basically what we got with Phillips and Chop, like weak side edge defenders that can get after the passer. So I'd probably take Makuba. Oh yeah, Noel Williams. I didn't say him earlier, but he is another pretty good fit. I would say like round 3 or something, especially late round 3, early round 4. I think he's a pretty good fit. pretty good ball skills, body control, fluid, very aggressive player. Man, I like his around the ball. I'll do a tape of him. Dolphins have some very good picks. If they make the right picks, they can actually improve. Yes. This draft, I've talked about it, is super important. And it's kind of going to, one, it's not just important for next season. Like, obviously it's very important for Greer and McDaniel. The draft's always going to be very important. It's probably like the one where like, oh, we have to, set the tone. But it's also just so important for the team's future because you really haven't had that many picks over the last 3 years. Like most of your contracts coming up that you have to pay big, there's really not that many. Like you got to pay what, out of the guys you've drafted in the last 3 seasons, not counting last year because that's still a while away. So like not counting Chop or anything like that, because obviously you would have to pay him down the line. But other than like Devon Achane in those other classes, who do you have to pay? And it's not like Achane is gonna break the bank. He's a running back. So if you wanted to keep him around, you could, because there's really not too many other young guys on the roster that you really need to break the bank for. You kind of already paid a lot of the guys. You need to get younger and better a lot of positions. So this draft is huge. Yeah. I'm still pissed about. Don't get me started on when we lost the first and the third, man. I was so mad that day when I saw that. And like, you see these people colluding all the time. We see people breaking the rules and they just get like the smallest of slaps on the wrist. And the Dolphins lost a first and a third. It's crazy. It's like, and it's for people we didn't even end up with. We've seen people like, there was like people that said they tampered. I forget what player it was. They tampered and talked to these players early in free agency. And every team does it. Like, I've heard like literally all the teams are, taking advantages of these rules. Dolphins do it, and it's their owner too. Just talking to Tom Brady, Sean Payton, who neither ended up with the Dolphins, and they lose a first and a third. It's like, Ross, what are you doing, man? Ooh. We have to get 2 to 3. Yeah, for sure. 3 would be great. If you get 3 stars in this draft, that's a great draft. And then a couple of role players. I actually tweeted this out. I don't have Nick and Emenwari in my top 3 safeties. I have Starks, Makuba, and Watts ahead of him. Yeah, that was my hot take. I tweeted about that. And it's not like I dislike Emenwari. It's just I've seen people with that skill set before. The super athletic safety that's really big and but lacks the fluidity, and they don't always play up to their physical, like their physical potential and stuff like that. And I do think, I will say, compared to some of the guys that have been like him before, like the Melifonwu brothers are actually like, and Dolphins have one of the Melifonwus, because they're actually kind of similar. I will say Emenwari definitely has better coverage instincts than those guys, but still is not like elite coverage instincts. And there's certain things like that I don't think he does as well. I think he's like, to me, he's a big nickel overhang defender that can match up on tight ends, erase some tight ends, but would struggle maybe matched up on receivers, can play quarters top down, but not necessarily going to be like a deeper safety playing like middle of the field type thing. So I'm just not as high. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at with this class. Obviously, certain positions, more of a need. And it never plays out exactly how you suspect. They always end up, taking a position maybe that you weren't expecting earlier. That's just kind of what I'm guessing, because it's hard to always get in the mind of what they're thinking. And sometimes the board just doesn't fall how you expect. And they will always value things differently each and every year. Things slightly change. There's so many players to potentially talk about. Let's see if there's anyone else I wanted to talk about. I recently watched Quincy Riley. He's interesting from Louisville. He's played outside and nickel as corner. I think he's more of a nickel corner at the next level. Had a good Senior Bowl. I think he's got really good zone instincts, especially when he's like playing like as a flat or hook defender. He reads like those, like his leverage is really good in those situations. Plays pretty physical as well. Like the awareness he plays as a nickel defender. I think he's going to be a solid nickel defender at the next level. Just wanted to talk about him. But yeah, any more questions? Yep, finally got moved. Thank God. For me, let's see. In round 1, it better be D-line or O-line? I think it could be secondary. I think D-line, O-line, secondary. I would be down for those the most. Unless someone falls, obviously, like someone falls that I really love that's at a different position, I'm down for that as well. But BPA, I'm BPA with like you go BPA for the most part until there's like a situation where like you have very close grades, then you have that discussion of what player you would take. I don't want Ross to sell a team I like. He is willing to cheat. You know, Ross is willing to spend too. Like, I mean, that's the one thing. He always was willing to spend. I don't think that's his problem. To be fair, a lot of these people are trying to cheat. Honestly, I think it would, unless one of the top tackles falls that could play guard, I think the Dolphins should take guard in round 2. I think it's a better usage of the pick if taking a guard in round 2 than in round 1. Specifically in this class, at least. Just, thinking about value. Well, I do think the Dolphins need guard and should get better at one of the guard spots. It is still one of the least important positions in the Dolphins scheme. It was just they were so bad last year. It was such a big problem. They just need to be decent. Like they don't even need to be great. It just needs to be a decent player. I don't know. My money is great as go line until they're hurt earliest. Definitely, I think there's a chance of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he took a tackle that could play guard because I think he's definitely willing to take tackles early. Because I think he's very willing to take the premium positions early, and tackle obviously falls under that umbrella. I love Jade Barron. Yeah, Jade Barron is not Noah Igbenogany. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think he's guaranteed to take a round 2 guard at all. But guard is always weird in the draft. They typically don't go round 1, except maybe late round 1, and then some go early round 2, and then it's like no guards will go for a while. Like if you look at last year's class, I'm pretty sure like a lot of O-linemen went early, but it was a lot of tackles, maybe a couple guards, and then like no guards at all like went in round 2. It was crazy. I think that's what it was. And then you started seeing some come off the board in round 3. I love Makuba more than you. Jeffrey Bassett is Tyndall 2.0. I mean, he's a day 3 pick, so I mean he could be. I think they're kind of different though. Bassett has like the safety experience. Bassett's better in coverage than Tyndall ever was, but yeah, they're both like athletic speed guys. Right, it's corner then D tackle. I would rather take corner before D tackle, just due to the class. I think the corners would be better value, especially in this class, because like the D tackle class is so deep, and I think a lot of the D tackles at 13 would be slight reaches for me, while the corners wouldn't be for the most part. Just looking at the top guys, and then you can get a lot of good D tackles on day 2, and even some good ones on day 3. So I would actually lean corner over D tackle, even though they're both pretty big needs for Miami, just because I think the D-line class is stacked. And I've talked about this before, but Weaver, if there's one position that I think he can scheme up production for, it is the defensive line. I want to do a film on Luke Kandra, but like literally, it's impossible to find Cincinnati O-line film, dude. So once I get some Cincinnati O-line film, I will definitely watch some on him because I still have no notes. But I would like to get some film on Luke Condra because I've only seen a few clips just on Twitter of him, and that's literally it. Yeah. I think Membo is another one, but I think Membo and Campbell are going to be gone. And that, for me, if Membo and Campbell are gone, I don't think there's another O-lineman I'm considering at 13. At least for me. There would be O-lineman I consider like in a trade back, but at 13, it's a little rich for the rest of them. Ryder, where do you rate the top 5 corners? Let me check. Let's see. Do I have it in order yet? I can do it. Okay. This is kind of tough because, okay, one, if I'm going to count Travis Hunter, I guess, as a corner because he would be 1 for me, but he will be gone. After that, I have Will Johnson. Now this is where it gets tricky because I have Siobhan Ravel as a top 10 player, and I have Jahdae Barron as my 11th ranked player. So I technically have Siobhan Ravel over Barron, but with the injury, and since I have them so closely rated, I would take Barron over Ravel because I have these guys all rated very highly. Those 4: Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Siobhan Ravel Jr., and Jahdae Barron. I would take Barron before Ravel just because Ravel's coming off a serious injury. Then after that, purely based on film, I have Benjamin Morrison, but he also has a shoulder injury. So it is some injuries at the top in the corner class. Specifically, even Will Johnson has some, not as major ones, but then after that, yeah, that's kind of like what I have him at. I think Josh Simmons can sneak on up. I think Josh Simmons has the best film in the class at offensive line, but he's coming off a very serious injury, and I think he's a pure tackle only. But he is a very good player. I would love to trade back, but it's just not something that happens very often. So it always takes 2 to tango. That's why I don't ever predict trade backs because you never know what other teams are thinking. And I don't think a lot of teams want to trade up in this class. They know the pick at 13. It's a guard. Donovan has 4 years solid tape. You don't pass that up, and you play tackle half this year past due to injuries. I mean, you can definitely pass on it. There's other players that I would take over Donovan Jackson, but I do like Donovan Jackson a lot. Let's see. Simmons would 100% be worth the 13th pick if he was not injured. I actually think Simmons would be the first offensive lineman off the board if he wasn't injured. Has there been any updates? No, but I have heard it's a bad one in the knee. I can't remember which one exactly. I think it was the patella tendon. One that's not as quick to heal. Second, Derek Harmon. If Derek Harmon's there in the second, yeah, I'd run that up, but I think he's going to be gone. Type of running back? I think there will be 2 different types. The guys that are, typically guys that he sees fitting the outside zone scheme. So it's typically, obviously, guys that have that burst and acceleration. I don't think size necessarily matters, but it's more of those one-cut style runners. So it could be the guys like Jadon Blue, Marcus Yarns, the more explosive quick backs that more in like the Devon Achane type of player. But I could also see them going after, potentially some bigger guys that they think could do the same thing. Like Raheem Sanders or something. I still think Damian Martinez is interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they like Tootin from Virginia Tech. He's also a guy that I think they would like. But yeah. We don't need RB. Yeah, but I mean, look, they're going to go after. I think they'll take running back at some point in the draft. It just will be a late round running back. Are we high on the running back from Michigan State? James Marshall Jr. I don't think I've seen the Michigan State running back. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, let's see. Any final questions before I end this? Get stuff up. Okay. Who are you guys talking about that they like a lot? You're also high on Quinn Ewers. If you guys are reading reports, I would take a lot of those with a grain of salt because usually this time of the year is when a lot of like misinformation gets pushed by scouts out to the, these scouts like tell the people that report on stuff, but they don't tell them 100% everything. SMU running back. Yeah, I like Brashard Smith as well. He kind of fits into that same vein of like explosive back. When's your next stream? I have no idea, honestly. Don't know. Yeah, probably gonna end it. Keep an eye out for some film breakdowns, mock draft, next version of that tomorrow. Just continue seeing the mock draft Mondays, but yeah. I've watched a lot of Ewers. I like him. He'll scrap out a career like Mayfield did. I don't even think Ewers and Mayfield are in the same stratosphere. But I don't like I don't like Ewers at all. Mayfield was the first overall pick. Ewers should not be picked till day 3 somewhere. Ewers is a scheme fit. I just don't like him. But later, guys. Peace.